Deedee, Ben, hey, congratulations for A Lone Star Love.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Not a problem. It's being showcased at the Austin Film Festival this year. How do you folks feel about that?
It's tremendous. I mean, one of the great things about it is that that was our goal festival. We oriented our whole festival scheduling process around Austin, hoping to make it our world premiere. So, to be accepted into the festival and be able to have this sort of a hometown premiere, because the film is very much rooted in Austin, to be able to have this as the kickoff for the rest of our festival run is really exciting.
Yeah, and I grew up in Austin. I was born and raised here, and when we initially started talking about this project, we floated the idea of filming in Austin, and then it became the central story became about Austin and being in Austin. So it's like it's meta coming back, and like having here and
And plus the Austin Festival is really emphasizes the writers and writing, and Ronan, who wrote the original draft of the script, continued to collaborate on the script when Deedee and I started to work on it as we moved into production. So this is a great festival for us because we really feel like we really work together as a team on this script.
Yes.
Wow. I feel like you're fortunate and very lucky that that it is in your backyard and it is going to be a physical film festival, which is terrific.
Definitely. That's something it honestly stressed me out initially, but we're very lucky that it's happening and we're ready to go. It's going to be really nice to be in a theater with everybody and experiencing it with them, Yeah,
it's so tricky with the pandemic. I feel like it's all about timing. We shot the film in January of 2020 and we were going to smooth, and then we obviously hit the pandemic. That kind of gave us some hiccups in post. And then, of course, now we have to do all these technical processes remote and across the country, which was a challenge. But now to be able to be here in person, to be able to screen in Texas with a live audience, like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it,
Yeah.
That's great. Well, let's start off with the easy question, I guess. You said your co-writer Ronan was the one who came up with the concept. Where did he come up with the concept from?
So, Ronan and I we met in acting school, and he had a bunch of scripts that he was kind of showing me. We just became friends, and we just really connected right off the bat. And he thought it was like more of a comedy when he wrote it. He just was in a dark place, and he thought, I don't know, like the way, like he was just thinking about the way social media affects the world and how it kind of. What I got out of it was that, it kind of, it's invasive, like even when it kind of throws things at you and tells you and informs you about all these things that you don't really want to know necessarily. And that's what really drew me. Like when I read it, I was like, I really like this script, but he was trying to capture how invasive social media is and how toxic it can be, but yet we can't get away from it. Like it's just one of those necessary evils almost at this point in the world.
And so that was like a main theme that he was driving at in the script. And we had this relationship with this android. And then Deedee and I met at a play reading at the New School. And she saw a previous film that I had done, Power Out, which also had dealing with themes of social media and sort of slacktivism and our relationship with it. So she thought maybe this is a good fit. And then, when I met Deedee, and her energy is amazing, and, this Texas ethos, I actually started to write her character into the film. Originally, this was not this love triangle kind of thing that happens in the film. And so bringing Deedee's character in, she's Layla that she plays, she sort of represents this real world, analog, authentic, in-person connection that we are so not making space for these days. And then Ronan's character, David, his relationship with Viva is all about this synthetic interaction. So we're trying to create this choice for the audience to make and maybe reflect on their stuff. But I think it was Ronan's interest in social media's impact on our lives and on our emotional and mental health that was the crux of the start of the film.
Oh, I mean, that's terrific, especially the fact that you folks made a short film that everyone in their own way could relate to.
Yeah, I personally like my character in the film. I despise social media. And so when I read the script, like even somebody who's not active on it, I like really related to it because I've had it in the past and whatever, but I just was like, oh my gosh, this is so just it just spoke such a truth to me. And like for someone who doesn't even like social media, I was like, if I'm resonating with this, I know other people are definitely going to.
And I think too, there's a big conversation we're having around it now. I mean, there's a conversation around Instagram being toxic for underage kids and teenagers. We're seeing reports about this. And so it's very much so on people's minds, and they're reflecting on their own experience, but also just how it affects us as a culture. So we kind of want to bring that out with the film.
Well, let's talk about utilizing the Android as the social media device, literally an Android, not the phone. Talk about incorporating that into the short film.
Well, what's interesting about so the Android in the film is called Aviva, and it's basically like a stand-in for your phone. And the way in which the film is kind of different from some other sort of robot relationship stories is that there's no hint of AI here. There's no companionship. Everything the relationship that David has with his Viva is really projected onto them. And so the idea was that Viva would be a stand-in for your phone, and so it's about delivering these social media messages in a way that is even more engaging than just a computer. So it's, imagine a world and a company has decided the most engaging thing you could do is talk with a person, but we're going to make that person a social media machine. So it kind of blurs that line between that authentic human interaction and you realizing you're still sucked into that social media world. And then of course there was technical challenges with just realizing how do we realize the vision of this Android on film. Annetta Burning, an incredible physical performer, really dynamic range, brought this specificity. She has a background as a dancer, so we got really technical with her movements and some of the way that goes. Then, of course, Nick Richter, our DP, who also served as the colorist, did some fantastic work with her eyes, making these eyes pink, which is a really authentic look, not done with contacts or anything like that. It's just all done with the color grade. And then, of course, Eric Roediger and Nick worked together on the special effects to create these displays, all of which was to try and create this seamless feeling of a totally kind of a robotic individual, but also something that was kind of warm and that would draw you in.
So how long did it take you to find Annette to play Viva?
Well, Annette and I actually were working in a restaurant together, you know, the struggling actor life that a lot of people do. And Ronan and I, basically Ronan wrote a bunch of scripts, and a lot of them were just like short scripts, plays originally. And we got a group of actors together, and I had a good feeling. I was like, you know, I think that Annette kind of has a cool look for this. So I asked her to come read during our like reading for it. And I said, let me do this. And I kind of was just directing her, and I was just like, can you do it with a Norwegian accent? Which in the film, she has a slight Norwegian accent, trying to make it a little more
sort of
like
international.
Yeah, exactly. And a little more like high tech not just like a standard American accent. And she just did a great job. And Ben actually, when we initially met, he's like, I have to have a hand in casting. This is so important. And I was like, just trust me. I took a video of her. She read some lines. We did some improv. I cannot say that right now.
Yeah, you made it up as it went.
Improv. And we did it, and I sent Ben it, and he's like, yeah, I think this can work. And I was like, just trust me. And she blew us away, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, as a director, you want to create a cohesive vision. So having a hand in everything is important. But, and of course there was, you know, an immediate concern that came to mind to me as being someone, I'm very culturally aware, and also just like trying to be very sensitive to people. And so immediately when there's this idea of a story of a man with a female form robot, that brings a lot of tropes, a lot of ideas to mind. And so initially I was like, you know, maybe this needs to be a non-binary performer, you know, maybe we need to open up our search. But then they were like, you know, Annette is really great. So we had a read with her, and I was like, oh, clearly, I mean, she's so beautiful, she's so sensitive, and just a great, dedicated, talented performer. That was the direction we went. And when we made that decision, because Annette was so great, now we're confronted with a film where you have this dynamic between a sort of a feminine robot, right? And that brings a lot of things to mind. So as a director, I was trying to be very sensitive about, let's get rid of all the male gaze. Like there's a scene where they're kind of having a sort of intimate moment, and he's got his shirt off because he's woken up in bed, but she does not. We're not objectifying her. We're not, we're putting all the responsibility on him. So we're trying to take away all of those moments that would emphasize this male gaze, that would kind of complicate that problem of that dynamic, and really put the focus on the social media relationship and the relationship that we have with the things that we covet.
Well, Deedee, this is your first project on anything, right? How was that experience overall for you?
Oh, it was, so I have a theater background, and I went to New York when I was 20 to study acting. So I never, I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, to be honest. I just knew that I really liked Ronan's writing, and when him and I initially met, I just knew we were going to eventually do something together. And so when I actually reached out to Ben, I had no idea what he wanted to be a part of with the project. But then we ended up, he's like, I would like to direct it. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, I didn't have a director in mind or anything. But then I kind of just learned from him what a producer does. And it was not really, and I still, to be honest, I don't know exactly what a producer does because I kind of did everything, not with Ben's help, but not just on my own, but like as far as location, and booking plane tickets and casting and going with Anetta to buy clothes and doing hair and makeup, like all of it, it was all encompassing because Ronan and we self-funded this. So I was like cutting, I was like, oh, why do we pay for this? I can do it, like I can do all this.
See,
But
that's exactly what a producer is. That's why you killed it, because you were a go-getter. And a producer is someone who's like, I have this idea, I'm gonna shepherd this all the way home. And sometimes, it's just you doing the, you're the PA, you're the publicist, you know what I mean? And I couldn't have asked for a better partner in this.
It's been great, but it was definitely, I'm not gonna lie, right before filming, I was very stressed out. And then but once we actually got on set, it was like everything was worth it. And it was so, like, that was the bread and butter for me, was just watching Anetta do it, like watching Ronan and watching Ben, like watching them all work and like create art was just like, all the stress, all the exhaustion. It's just so worth it because this is so beautiful. And now seeing it come together and like what he did in post, what Nick did in post was just so beyond my initial vision. So I really like it. Definitely got the bug, but we'll see where I don't know where my career is going to take me because I like both, but I still love acting more. I like the creative.
That's terrific. I'm glad you liked your experience as producer. I mean, in one interview, this one producer told me all he did was order food for his entire crew. But producing is multiple jobs.
Yeah, did everything besides direct. But it was, it was definitely worth it. I also think the payoff was definitely like, the payoff was so big because of how much work we put into it and everything. But yeah, Ben, I don't think I could have done it without him by any means because he has a lot more experience and a vision that I did not. And I loved that. So it was great.
Now, is Ronan Irish?
Yes.
Ronan is Irish. He is an Irish national. He's here as a writer and actor. He has an accent. He's using his authentic accent in the film. When Ronan wrote the project, his nationality and background were not an element of the project. This was not about an Irish guy. And in fact, when we did a first read, he did it with an American accent. And I was like, why don't you do this with an Irish accent? Why don't you just do this with a national accent? Because to me, I was looking to make the film as authentic as possible. And when you're making an indie film and your resources are low, you have to look at what you have and nurture that and bring that into the film. So when we decided to shoot in Texas, started to bring Deedee as an actor, more as a character into the film and write that relationship in. Now we have this fish out of water story, this Irish national coming here, trying to find a life for himself in Austin, kind of starting up after a breakup. So you have this sci-fi kind of dark rom-com Black Mirror thing happening, but then you also have this great fish out of water story about the Texas ethos, which is about, honor and self-reliance and helping out your neighbor and sense of community and all that stuff. And now you've got someone who has a European perspective, who doesn't understand the local culture. There's a scene in it where he goes to a party to the character that I play her brother in the film for a few scenes. And he brings a bottle of Irish whiskey, as a generous, good Irishman would do when you show up to a party. And my character's like, well, it ain't bourbon. Just kind of looking down on it and whatever. And that may be just a mismatch. And this is not, but in that moment, it's that fish out of water thing. So bringing his nationality into it and his relationship made the film all the more authentic and kind of cross-pollinating these two cultures. Like, it's just something you don't get to see that often.
Mm-hmm. And it's two random cultures. Like there is a small, I wouldn't say small, but there is an Irish population in Austin. But it's not like New York or Boston, right? Like it's not where there's certain, or Chicago, like there's huge hubs. So it was kind of, I don't know, as somebody, I've moved around about a lot and like been the fish out of water, and even coming back home after moving from New York, like I still feel like a fish out of water in Austin. Like Texans are very particular, and it's a very specific cultural thing, you know, like you have to be very polite. You have to watch your language. You have to watch what you say. You have to be well-mannered. And, you know, so it's coming from New York is even like a culture shock. So we tried to play on that with his Irishness.
And Deedee ended up being my cultural ambassador, because she is so read into this culture. She breathes the ethos of Texas. So it's like, if there was something that my character, I was like, hey, is this how it would go? I was like, no, actually, you know, you would do this, or that you would be more polite in this moment, or you wouldn't say that back. And just making sure that authenticity was there, and me playing a Texas character, and Ronan, and watching those two people interact. And then we've gotten such support from Ireland, not only from Wexford, but for Dublin. And we have some target festivals over there, Virgin International Dublin Festival, you know, so burrowing in this, and especially now, you have to really make a film niche to reach people, find your audience, target toward that audience, and go after them. And so we're really excited about the response from Ireland.
And Austin itself, as portrayed in the movie, I mean, is the dating and social scene, you know, very similar to other cities, or is it quite different?
Ooh. Okay, so I love this question. Yeah, because I moved to New York when I was 20, but when I was 19, I did date a little bit when I was here. And you know, I think New York is by far the most toxic place to date I've ever been. Like, everybody in New York is very self-serving, and they're trying to further themselves, and they're so busy, and it's hard to like create space for another human. That's just been my personal experience. But in Austin, it's different. Like, I don't know, I think that people are more interested in more commitment, you know, like I think it's like, I know so many of my friends in New York that went on like so many first dates, but there's never a second date. But in Austin, when I see like with me and my friends, it's like, oh no, it can lead into a relationship. And, you know, I think the dating apps are definitely, a lot of my friends have gotten boyfriends here from dating apps. I think that I don't know, it's definitely a little more, people are kinder here in my experience. They're a little more, they're not as blunt as compared to like New York or LA. And they're just like, it's just a little more well-mannered. It's a little more old-fashioned, not by a lot. It's still like the era that we're living in 2021. But yeah, I definitely think there's just a little more kindness and awareness, and like longer term, or you're seeing somebody for a longer time frame compared to my experience in New York, at least.
Is social media a lot different in Austin than the rest of the cities? Because, you know, I'm here in California,
right?
And, you know, people have phones to their hips. And you could tell when they take photos for Instagram, they're holding their phones while taking a photo.
Of course. Yeah. You know, I actually did pick up that. It used to be something that really frustrated me when I was young, and I was going out to like the bars and, you know, whatever with my friends, because so many of them, they couldn't pick their head up out of their phone. And then in New York, I mean, for me in New York, I feel like people were less like on their phones, because I think it's a lonelier city. And so when you're with somebody, you're like actually creating space to like really connect with them. But yeah, I mean, I see it all the time, and it does drive me crazy. But I think the social media thing is there. I don't think it's as toxic as LA. I don't think it's as like, there's not as many influencers, and you know, people like will post, but it's not as much of an addiction. But it's definitely there, and there's definitely a breed of girls and like whatever that are, and men, I guess. But I don't know. I just know it from certain girls where I'm just like, can you just get off your phone? Like, it drives me crazy. It drives me crazy. Oh, I used to get so angry about it. Now, the older I get, I just don't have the energy to be angry.
This is the verisimilitude. This is the real life, bringing in the authentic point of view into the film.
This is Layla. Layla's frustrated.
That is great. That is great. So what's next for the short film, and then what's next personally for both of you?
Well, I mean, we're at the beginning of Austin Film Festival, so we have 2 screenings there that we're very excited about. You can find information about that stuff at alonestarlove.com or go to austinfilmfestival.com. So we have some more festivals that we're going to be going around into in New York and LA. And so we're going to be on the festival circuit through 22. As far as myself goes, I have another project coming up that's a science fiction pilot. It's a 24-minute pilot that's in post-production right now that I co-created with the DP of this project, Nick Richter. And that's about time travel. And it's kind of got a cyberpunk bend to it. And it's called Zero Method. So I'm looking to put that out next year. And I think you've been already working on some other like cooking show projects and things like that.
Yeah, I actually am producing a cooking show with an actor that was, or he helped us in our film, but it's like a very brief scene. But we're trying to showcase Austin, like local Austin breweries, and it combines alcohol and food, but it's in the works right now. We're in editing right now. And then I just signed on with a new agent. So I am trying to get more acting gigs, but I'm just kind of, I don't know, I'm going to see what happens. There's some stuff I'd like to write myself and see what comes out of that. And I'm also interested in just also producing and signing on for other projects, but nothing right immediately in the works, just kind of floating,
Yeah,
you know?
let's do Lone Star for now. Yeah.
Lone Star's kind of my focus, getting this out into the world.
Well, most excellent. I think this is a lovely short story a lot of people should relate to and watch. And I hope you guys have fun at Austin Film Festivals. Thank you for speaking to us about a Lone Star Love with us.
Yeah, no, thank you for taking the time. Yeah, I appreciate it.
Hopefully we get to do this again.
Yes, absolutely.
We love that.
Enjoy. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye now.
Have a great day. Bye.